Redeemer. Yeah. So we all know the story of Ruth, which is typically read during the time of Shabbat or Pentecost. And this is where, of course, Ruth, who is a Moabitess, is grafted into Israel because she holds on to her mother-in-law, Naomi, and wants to join into the covenant. And then Boaz is her kinsman redeemer. It is her nearest relative who is willing to raise up seed for her dead husband, which happened to be a relation to Boaz. So Boaz, of course, went, and there was a nearer relation to Ruth who could have done that, but he didn't want to do it because he already had children. He didn't want to mar his seed. So once he refused it, then Boaz took Ruth as his own. And so he acted as the kinsman redeemer for Ruth, just like Joshua takes us as his own and redeems us. Also, this is a beautiful picture of how even when you're not necessarily Jewish or a descendant of Abraham, even if you're a Gentile, you can come into the covenant. Amen. And how Messiah has made a way for that. Okay, in
Use the blue idea. Different color.
Do you have any new
this one works.
The blue one, she said,
works.
works.
In 1st and 2nd Samuel, he is the trusted prophet. So this is where we're introduced to Samuel, who is the last judge. We're introduced, of course, to David, who is considered both a king and a prophet, or a prophet and a priest. But he is the trusted prophet that never will lie and will always tell us the truth. And of course, David and Samuel, both of those characters, in many ways, reflect different aspects of who the Messiah is and are foreshadows of who the Messiah will be. In Kings and in Chronicles, so 1st and 2nd Kings and 1st and 2nd Chronicles, he is the reigning king. So we know that one day in the future, Yahshua himself is going to return. He's going to rule for 1,000 years, just like in kind of like a Solomon type of kingship, where he will rule over all the earth. And so when we read about the various kings in Kings and Chronicles, even though some of the kings, of course, were wicked, we do get the picture of what he's going to one day be, which is going to be the reigning king over Israel and over all the earth. So he is the reigning king. In Ezra, he is the faithful scribe. You know, that's what Ezra was. Ezra was the king's scribe in Babylon. And of course, if you know the story of Ezra, he was very weeping and sorrowful because he wasn't in his homeland. And the king said, "What's wrong?" And Ezra said, "Well, I really want to go back to my homeland." And so he did. And he wound up working with Nehemiah in rebuilding Jerusalem. But he was known as a scribe. And he also was the one who read the Torah on Yom Teruah, the Feast of Trumpets, to the gathered Israelites in the city as they were rebuilding it, because he was faithful to know the Torah. He was the faithful scribe, and this is another aspect of who Yahshua is. You know, he is a scribe. I don't know if you guys remember this verse, but in Malachi it says that whenever we get together and we talk amongst each other about Messiah, it says he writes that down. He records that because it's very precious to him whenever we're talking about him amongst each other. So he is the faithful scribe. In Nehemiah,
wait a minute, I'm going to go back. What did you say, Micah?
Malachi.
Malachi.
Yeah, it's toward the very. I think it's in Malachi 4. At the very end, it talks about how he records what we read. Oh, what we say. In Nehemiah, he is the rebuilder. He is the rebuilder of the broken down walls of Torah to guard our hearts and minds. He is the restorer. So he teaches us how to rebuild and restore Torah in our lives, to understand his ways, to understand his instructions, to help rebuild and restore broken relationships in our lives, and all sorts of things. And of course, Nehemiah is that whole book is about how they came back to rebuild the city of Jerusalem, to rebuild the temple. And so Yahshua is our rebuilder and our restorer. In Esther, or Hadassah, his Hebrew name, he is the one who turns all evil into good. Turns all evil into good. For those who love him. So, of course, we're reminded of Romans 8:28. To them who love him and who are called according to his purposes, all things work out for the good of those who love him. So, of course, the book of Esther is why we celebrate Purim, which is all about how this horrible conspiracy against the Jews, in which Haman was going to slaughter all the Jews in the Persian Empire, how that completely was turned around, and Esther, by obeying her uncle Mordecai, was able to gain favor with the king and turn Haman's plot on his own head, and he wound up getting killed, and the Jews wound up getting victory over their enemies. Many people in the Persian Empire, it says they converted to become Jews during that time. So, huge victory. So, how he turns all evil into good. So, when we're going through trying circumstances or evil times, we know that he's faithful to turn that around as long as we're faithful to stay faithful to him and to love him. In Job can be a difficult book to read, especially if we're going through hard times. He is the faithful and enduring one. Faithful and enduring one, even when we don't understand. So when we're going through situations that we just like, why are we going through this? I don't understand this. We see in Job that he's faithful and enduring even when we don't understand our circumstances. Job certainly didn't understand why he was going through all the evil things he was going through, and yet we see that Yah was faithful and he endured. So that's a very important aspect of who Messiah is. Psalms is an easy one. In Psalms, he is the singing shepherd. He is the singing shepherd who teaches us how to praise. You know, praise is a very important part of our relationship with Yah, because when we praise, we're acknowledging that he is king, we're acknowledging our dependence upon him, we're doing what we were created to do, which is to praise him. And the Psalms are really a great way of reflecting on how he's our singing shepherd. He rejoices over our praises to him. He inhabits our praises. And it's a very important part of our relationship with the Messiah. So he's the singing shepherd in Psalms, and a very important part of our lives. Right. You can see that every single book is about Yahshua and about Torah. In the book of Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, he is our wisdom. He's the source of all of our wisdom. In the Song of Solomon, he is the lover of our souls. Lover of our souls, and more importantly, he's our bridegroom. Whoops. Bridge. He's our bridegroom. So this is a real important aspect of who he is, because we know that the whole institution of marriage between a husband and wife is a picture of where we're eventually going to be with Messiah. We know that in the book of Revelation, we see that he takes us as his own, as his bride, and there's going to be the wedding supper of the Lamb. So this really is the Song of Solomon teaching us how he is our bridegroom, he's the lover of our souls. He wants that intimacy that a husband and wife have. Is a real important part of understanding our relationship with him and where our relationship is headed. That right now we are betrothed to him, but the wedding hasn't happened yet. The consummation hasn't happened yet, and that's what we're looking forward to when he returns. In Isaiah, he is the Prince of Peace. Prince of Peace. He is the everlasting Father.